what should we do to make this world a better place? People often ask me, there's this circumstance or that condition in the world. So I find myself saying, I can't help people with the specifics. I don't know the specifics of politics or how things should work in the world, but I do know some general principles that I think hold in all cases. And the way I sum it up is the phrase that I used at the end of the last talk, which is love deeply and act effectively. Now, acting effectively is related to your mindfulness skills and strategies, but that's not the whole picture of acting effectively. Acting effectively involves a lot of things, but mindfulness skills and strategies do enter in. Loving deeply critically depends on mindfulness skills and techniques. So we always are asking, what is love? And we're always sort of seeking something. It's taken me decades to have a confident answer with regards to the question, what is love, at a very deep level. I don't think I can confidently answer it at more superficial levels. That would be other kinds of experts would talk about that. But I do have a confident answer as to what it is at a very deep level, maybe the deepest level. So we chant this mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, hail to the jewel in the lotus. So if you think of love as this fragrant, colorful, attractive flower, is there in the center of it something that is its essence that could be called the jewel that's hidden inside that lotus? And I would say yes. And I would say that I can put it into words. I am also tempted not to put it into words because the words are likely to be a letdown until there's an experience that goes with those words. So the description is sort of not all that poetic. How do we know that there's a world? Well, we see it, we hear it, we touch it, and we think about it. Of course, when we think about it, we see it, we hear comments about it, we have words about it, we have emotional sensations. So through inner and outer activity, we have the perception that there is a world. And through those same sense gates, we have the perception that we have a self. So As your mindfulness skills develop, it becomes possible to have a more and more complete experience of inner and outer see, hear, feel. That means an experience with progressively greater sensory richness, but also progressively less moment-by-moment fixation. That leads to a paradoxical experience, which is an experience of maximal richness, because it's getting richer and richer and richer, but at the same time, minimal somethingness, because the amount of time that you're fixating any particular part of it is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So at the limit of clarity and equanimity is the experience that is optimally rich and also utterly vacuous at the same time. And can you put into words what that's like? Sure, but as I say, it's likely to be a bit of a letdown. What it's like is that there is an absolute rest wherein time and space collapse to a dimensionless point that has no position. And then that breaks apart. And the positive spreads and the negative pulls in. There's a simultaneous expansion and contraction like a space fountain that's spreading and collapsing. It's the fountain of youth. Ponce de Leon. It's gushing and gathering. And it's shimmering, vibrant space. And if you stay with that, you have everything you ever wanted, and you have absolute safety. You're being held by your cosmic parents. Your physical parents would have been a representation of this cosmic parenting. But most people don't notice that, even though it happens thousands of times a day. Each time they see the world, or themselves, or hear, or touch, or think, or move, or speak, just before this happens. So people don't notice it, number one. And number two, that scintillating mist coagulates into inner and outer see or feel. And there's a sense of an I that is vulnerable and disconsolate, not getting what it wants. And there's a sense of an it that is fundamentally alien and threatening, called the world or the other. So the jewel in the lotus, when you unfold the petals and look at what's on the inside, when we say we're experiencing human love, be it of the physical kind or any other kind, but it's the human love. Well, the human love is that flower. And certainly that has its place in in the nature of things. But it's also important to have a deeper context whereby you understand this non-human love that is hidden within, always was, and is available all the time. So, to love deeply means that before that you are aware that love always comes first. You can't have any reaction of any sort whatsoever without first having a perception of yourself and the world, except at the origin of each perception of self and world is this deep love. So if you come in contact with this, that means that all of the decisions, the judgments, the reactions, they're still going to happen like they always do. But there is an inescapable context that precedes. So that then colors your responses. It doesn't mean that you no longer judge, or that you can't take action, or that you can't confront or oppose. It doesn't militate against any of that, but it just puts it in a different context. So let's say that there's something going on in the world that you think is bad, and action needs to be taken to change this. Certainly legitimate. If you're able to love deeply, that's going to have a huge effect on acting effectively. Unfortunately, the bad news is most humans have not yet learned how to love deeply. So, because loving deeply means hundreds of times in the day, whenever you perceive the other, the enemy, the source of the problem, them, it. Whenever you perceive that, you first perceive that being loved into existence by the source. Whether you perceive it by sight, sound, touch, or whether you perceive it by thinking about it. I mentioned the Prajna Paramita literature. Manjushri, there's the wisdom function, and then there's the wisdom writings. So in the temples, at least in the temple where I lived in Japan at Koyasan, there was a custom, they celebrate New Year's a little differently than here. So what you do is you stay up all night, like here, on New Year's Eve, but you read the entire 20,000 verses of the Prajna Paramita, or at least as much of it as you can get through. You chant it in Sino-Japanese. So I think I mentioned that it's like an Encyclopedia Britannica. It's just got all this detail of information about the world of India 2,000 years ago, approximately. It's translated into Chinese. So it just lists all this stuff. And then it says, this is empty, that's empty. It's got all the you know, all the cultural information, the crazy ideas they had about geography and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And then it says, this is empty, this is empty, this is empty. And you might wonder, well, what's the point? But when one night, one New Year's, when we were doing that, we were chanting all night. And you have to look at the book, right? Because no one can memorize so much, so you're actually reading it. So you're seeing what the text says. And I realized that what this was all about, why we were doing that. Because, well, let's see. Do you know did you ever hear Allen Ginsberg's parody of the Prajnaparamita? I don't know if it was written down or if he just performed it, but it was something to the effect of, shit is empty, piss is empty, fuck is empty, screw is empty. Something along those lines, right? Yeah, really, you probably find it on the internet. Okay, so, well, I just said a bunch of four-letter words, but when you, if I say, you know, houses are empty, apartments are empty, parks are empty. If you're really watching image space, you'll see that you get what in Sanskrit is called spota, S-P-O-T-A, S-P-H-O-T-A, spota. What a spota is a little flicker of an image that's very, very fleeting. So when you're reading, you know, this is empty, every one of those thises, I started to notice created a momentary mental image. How else would I know what it means, right? And then I started to tune into that, and I could see the images, each one of those images born in between expansion and contraction, coming from and returning to empty. So it's a whole meditation. You're thinking about the world. How do you think about the world? Are you actually aware that each one of those bursts of image and talk come from and return to the source? So once you sort of realize that, you'll be able to understand the early 21st century North American sutra, which goes like this. Trump is empty, Obama is empty, Trump is empty, Obama is empty, as many times as you need to hear that.